This is the 200th episode on the channel, so I decided to do something different. I asked Grok, which is the X or the Twitter AI, to come up with interview questions for the hair metal guru. And I specifically said, don't be afraid to ask about the military, my sobriety, or anything that might help people get to know who I am. So I haven't previewed the questions. I'm just going to go through and answer them. So, coming up next on the channel, I guess I'm going to interview myself. Hopefully, this shit doesn't backfire.
The hair metal guru from Warren to Crew. The hair metal guru. Never forget Charlie too.
Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru, and yeah, uh, I have a bunch of questions here from X, and all I really said was, and X, it can go through all your posts. It knows all about the videos that I've published, and it's really fucking smart. So I was kind of glancing through some of the questions, and like it knows everything about me. So so I decided, to do something different. It's the 200th episode, and I'll be honest, I kind of got this idea. From Brendan Snyder, who's got a really cool YouTube channel. I like watching his shit. The dude puts out videos like every fucking day, and he just had a recent video where he kind of talked about his music history and what he liked from, growing up and how he got into it. And so I just kind of expanded. So, Brendan, sorry if I'm stealing your idea, but I just kind of expanded that and just decided for the 200th episode that I would just do a full-blown interview with myself. And hopefully it doesn't go too long, but you never know how fucking long-winded I might get. So let's get into it. Question number one, and it kind of broke it down. So the first questions are about my background and my personal life. So it says, can you take us back to your early days? What was life like growing up, and how did you first discover your love for music? Well, I was born in Montana in 1972, and my parents got divorced when I was 4. And my mom had 3 kids, and we moved back from Montana to North Dakota, which is where I currently live. And so I know it was hard for my mom. I was always a mama's boy growing up, but my first memories of being in Montana are my older brother, who was one of my dad's kids. I remember driving around in his truck, and I remember 2 songs: Glenn Campbell, Rhinestone Cowboy, and Boz Scaggs, The Lido Shuffle. And I just remember loving those songs. So I always knew from an early age that I really loved music. And so, maybe I'll get more into stuff about my childhood. But anyway, that's my first love for music. Question number 2. What are some of your who were some of your biggest influences when you were a kid? My mom. I'm a complete mama's boy. My mom went through a lot of hell when she was younger. She got pregnant with my sister when she was 17 in high school, and to be, pregnant in 1966 in high school was really frowned upon. By the time she was 23, she had 3 kids and was divorced, and she just sacrificed everything for us. So I'll never be able to thank my mom enough. And she's still, like, I call my mom a couple times a week, and she's the most amazing person ever. And when everything seemed to be falling apart, maybe in my life, or you know she was always somebody that I could lean on. So, and then my older brother Rick, who is 4 years older than me, and he was actually in the military as well. And right now he's a deputy sheriff in North Dakota, and he's also the pastor of his church where he lives. So just was always there for me. So yes, those are my biggest influences. What's one childhood memory that shaped who I am today, either as a person, uh, childhood memory? I think when my dad quit drinking, my stepdad. Okay, my real dad has never been in my life. I didn't see him or hear from him from the time I was 4 until a few years ago. But my stepdad, Richard, who married my mom when I was about 14, but they got together when I was about 7. But he quit drinking in 1987, right at the end of my eighth grade year. And I saw this big change in him. He went from being this asshole that I hated to became this great dad. And I think that was an influence for me later on when I had my own alcohol problems. Okay. Before your military career, did you have any dreams of becoming a musician, or was music always more of a passion than a profession? Yes, I always wanted to fucking be in a band. Even in college, I was always writing lyrics. My roommate played guitar. We always did the talent shows, and I would sing. And I have a very mediocre singing voice, but we would always do them. We would play original songs. We'd always lose to some chick who would karaoke Whitney Houston. But I always wanted to be in a band, but I never fucking sat down and learned how to play guitar. So even when I went to college, I thought, well, maybe I'll be in radio or something. So yes, I always wanted to be in music, and hence what led to this channel was that desire to be involved. Next question. How did your family react when you decided to join the National Guard? Well, my brother was already in the National Guard, and he was the one who kind of said, "Hey man, I'd been in college for 2 years before I joined, and my grades were shit. I'd gained a bunch of weight. I was partying a lot." And my brother was like, "Man, if you go to basic, you'll get in shape. You'll feel so much better about yourself." And my uncles had all been in the military, so my family was all super supportive of joining the Guard. Next, you served 22 years in the National Guard, including deployments to Iraq and Kosovo. And I didn't read through all these questions, so I don't know everything that they're going to ask. What inspired you to enlist in the first place? Well, first, it was just that thing, my life kind of going nowhere. It wasn't like that I was overwhelmingly patriotic, though I mean, I was patriotic, but it was just wanting to get my shit straight. So that's kind of why I joined. But later on, when I deployed, it became different. But it was just being out of shape in college, going to shit and wanting to better myself, I guess. Can you share a defining moment from your time in Iraq that still sticks with you today? Uh, I went to Iraq in 2003. I was an alcoholic before I left. I dropped out of college in 1996. But by 2003, when I deployed, I was a part-time bartender. I would drink damn near every night to the point of blacking out. In 1999, I got a DUI. So anyway, the defining moment from my time in Iraq was that I was I was one of the people who was like, "Fuck, this is great." Everybody else hated it, and I was like, "Man, I'm sober. My confidence is coming back." So Iraq was the first time where I'd been sober in many years, and I realized that I was so much better without alcohol than with. So I think that's my defining moment. What was the most challenging aspect of serving in Iraq, and how did you cope with the stress of being in a combat zone? The most challenge I was a convoy medic, so I was a combat medic, but I went on convoys. And there were eight of us medics, and two of us were kind of designated convoy medics who would have to go out on the road and deliver. We were engineers, so deliver engineer supplies or maybe deliver the mail to all these different spots in Iraq. And out on the road is where all the scary shit happened. The IEDs and the small arms attacks, and we got shot at. We never had anybody die, thank God. But we got shot at and shit like that happened. So it was just that constant stress, of 5 or 6 hours being with your fucking M16 out your window and being like, okay, as we're going through Aramadi or Baghdad, and is this the day that it's gonna happen, or we're gonna drive over a fucking little dirt pile and it's gonna explode, which we saw that kind of shit all the time. So that was the most challenging. And how did I cope with it? I worked out. I learned how to work out again in Iraq. I lost like 60 pounds that year. I went from 260 pounds to probably 210 pounds or 200 pounds, whatever, by the end of the year while I was there. And you leaned on your friends. My two best friends were two other combat medics. We lived in the same tent. We're still really good friends, and you just leaned on the people that you were with. Um, let's see. Did you ever bring your love for hair metal to the battlefield, maybe sneaking a cassette player to listen to Motley Crue or Poison between missions all the fucking time? Okay, yes, we had a little boom box, and my roommates, my two tent mates, loved hair metal too. So we listened to that shit all the time. I would order, we could have stuff delivered from Amazon. So I remember ordering like a Hanoi Rocks box set. And we were so squared away. I was part of the 142nd Engineer Combat Battalion out of Fargo. Like we brought a karaoke machine. I shit you not. And on the base, we would okay, and this is gonna sound you're gonna be like, how can that happen in a combat zone too? I would have never thought, but the bases were secure, and we would have like fucking karaoke nights, and I would be the DJ because people just talk. I was like the music guy and I was pretty I had a voice and like I said, I'd always wanted this career in music. And so I would DJ karaoke and shit like that. And that's the kind of shit we would do to blow off steam. You couldn't drink over there, thank God. So that was, how we got by. Um, how did your military service influence your sense of discipline? And do you think that played a role in building your YouTube channel? Well, yeah. Basic training, really, that is like it's the two worst months in any soldier's life. Well, I actually did a worse 2 months when I went after Iraq. I went to officer candidate school, and it was 56 days of hell. It was way worse than basic training. And yeah, you get discipline. You never have a day off. You work from 4:30 in the morning until 10 at night. And like, do I want to do that stuff now? No, but I know that I can. And you kind of learn not to fear scary shit. And like to think about starting it, I guess back to the channel. It's kind of like you're like, fuck, I don't know how to do a YouTube channel, but you're like, fuck it. I've already done all this gone crazy places and seen crazy things. So can starting a YouTube channel really be all that scary? No, not compared to the military. So yes, that, you know, it did help me to do the stuff that I've done now. After 22 years of service, what's the proudest moment you look back on from your military career? Just that I did it. I could have gotten out and damn near did get out many times. I almost got out in 2002 when I was an alcoholic and I was like, fuck this. But 9/11 happened and I decided to stay in, thank God. And, I went from being like, I wasn't a really good soldier when I was younger. And when, because I was always partying and, I'd show up late and I wasn't really responsible. And then after Iraq, when I quit drinking, and then people were like, "Shit, man, like you're a good soldier. Like you should go be an officer." So I did. I retired as a captain. I deployed in 2009 to Kosovo, and instead of being like a low-level soldier like I was in Iraq, not that you're a low level, but I was a specialist. Everybody gets to the rank of specialist. So in Kosovo, I was a company commander. I was in charge of 80 people. So just the fact that I did that and did 22 years uh and got where I got is I never saw that shit happening when I first signed up in 1993. So that's it. Uh Veterans often face unique challenges transitioning back to civilian life. How did you handle that? Um well, when I got home from Iraq and I'd been sober for the year, I had told myself you're going to cut down on your drinking. But I wasn't ready to fully quit. And when I got home, the first day I got back, I got completely annihilated drunk, blacked out, threw up. And 2 months after I got home in the summer of 2004, I was gone again. And I damn near had a nervous breakdown at the end of June. And I finally, I called up a place and I'm like, I don't know who I need to talk to, but I need help because I am gonna die this way. And so I ended up going to treatment at the beginning of July. In fact, my sobriety date is July 4th, 2004. It's my very own Independence Day. But yes, so for 2 months it was complete hell, and when I got sober, then I could face things. Uh, thank God. All right. Questions about teaching. You spent 12 years teaching high school English. What inspired you to become a teacher? And did your military background influence your approach in the classroom? Blah, blah, blah. I just, when I was younger, I had a high school English teacher, Mr. Burnham, who, rest in peace, he just passed away not too long ago. Inspired me, like said I was a good writer and encouraged me. And when I was in the military, I had, mentors who, encouraged me to go farther with my career, and people who, were like, man, you're on a bad path. And so when I got sober and went back to school, I was like, you know what? I want to be a mentor for young kids. And so, yes, the military completely inspired everything I did. And, like I wasn't like fucking like a drill sergeant. I tried to be the funny teacher. But I was also like when I saw a kid going down the wrong path, I would totally be like, hey, let's sit and chat. And I would tell him about my shit. And I wasn't afraid to say, hey, I'm an alcoholic and my life was going nowhere, and I needed to get on the right path. And so I wasn't afraid to do that. And that was my favorite part about teaching. The reason I left is the other shit that went into the school systems, and maybe there'll be, because I see there's questions about teaching. Remember, I don't know all the questions. I really don't. Did you ever bring your love for hair metal into your lessons? Like maybe using lyrics to teach poetry? Yes. I don't remember what songs and it wasn't always hair metal, but like I would find songs and we would break down the lyrics. And, when kids would talk about like music, I'd always be like, your music sucks. You should listen to Guns N' Roses. Obviously joking, but I totally talked about it all the time. You always had to wear like nice pants, but I would sometimes wear like dress pants and like a Poison t-shirt. And when we listened to music, like when there was work time, I'd let the kids listen to what they wanted to listen to, but then I'd be like, all right, it's my turn, and I'd play hair metal and give them shit about, sometimes kids would be like, oh, I know this. My parents would play it. So I did that frequently. Teaching can be incredibly rewarding, but also stressful. How did your journey as a recovering alcoholic shape the way you connected with students who might have been struggling with themselves? I think I did that. I think I talked about that, but I'll never forget. I won't say his name, but one time I was teaching, and a senior, came and told me, he's like, I'm struggling with drinking, and we sat and talked about it, and that kid ended up graduating, and we have gone out to dinner many times, and so I won't say that, oh, everything in this kid's life is perfect, but yes, when I knew that a kid was on a wrong path, we would sit down and talk about it. And was I always able to fix shit? No, but I would just say, like, you can come to me anytime, and that's what I miss about teaching, is that stuff. Uh, what was the most what played a role in your decision to leave the profession? Um, it's schools. I'll just be honest. Schools were moving in the direction of not holding kids accountable. And I'll just tell you straight up, I was teaching in West Fargo, North Dakota, and I taught there for 4 years. And for the first 3 years, it was great. And suddenly, if you know how things have changed in the last 7 or 8 years just in the country. Well, in my last year in West Fargo, I got called into the principal's office multiple times for shit like, hey, we heard you were yelling at a student, and maybe that you were trying to intimidate. And I'm like, for example, well, I was like, well, that kid was skipping class, and another teacher said, knew that I knew this kid and asked if I could help find him. And I was like, yeah, I kind of yelled at the kid. He was skipping class. And I was like, telling him, where are you supposed to be? But nothing would happen to the kid. No discipline. But I'm in the office, shit like that happened multiple times. One time, I had a student when I was gone for a day for training, and this kid left, was I had a substitute. Kid left the class, went and slapped another kid that apparently he'd been arguing with. I come home, I get this note, and I email, the principals and be like, hey, here's something that happened. Are we gonna do anything? No, nothing. But so teachers would be like, and we'd talk about this, like, man, I just don't leave my classroom because you're going to get in trouble if you try to discipline anybody. I shit you not. And luckily, because of my military background and I was always smart with my money, I could afford to leave teaching, and just that kind of stuff happened all the time with teachers. And it's no wonder that teachers are leaving the profession like crazy. It's just unreal. They're taking all the power away from the teachers. And I'm not saying teachers are perfect. And if they do something bad, they should be held accountable. But kids, no accountability, it seems. And I'm not blaming the kids. Because when I was a kid, if you would have not given me accountability, I would have pushed the limits too. It's somewhere up in the leadership. They're like, no, you know what, kids, like like a principal once said, well, we don't know what their home lives are like. So that was like an excuse for why they weren't gonna give this kid consequences. And I'm like, so we're just gonna make it worse and just tell them, hey, don't worry about it. Your home life might not be that great. So don't worry. You don't have to face consequences. Is that preparing them for the real world? I could go on about this for fucking ever. So yes, I left teaching, and it was hard because I miss the kids, I really do. Um, Now that you left teaching to focus on the Hair Metal Guru channel, do you miss the classroom, and do you think your teaching skills like communication and storytelling help you create better content for your fans? I mean, I don't know. I hope so. I was an English major. I was always pretty good at writing. I was always pretty good at public speaking. So I mean, I think that stuff has helped. Am I any good at it? Fuck, I don't know. I think so, but hopefully. All right. This video is going to be for fucking ever, but it's actually kind of fun. I'm surprised at how on target these questions are. Like, holy shit, AI is fucking smart. Okay, here's questions about alcohol recovery. You've been open about your journey as a recovering alcoholic. What was the turning point that made you decide to get sober? Um, I When I was in high school, I thought I was just gonna have life by the balls. I was like, oh, I felt like I was confident. I'm like, oh, you're gonna go to college and everything's gonna be great. And by 1996, I dropped out of college. I had a daughter. I was drinking like crazy. Um, I don't know if I've said this. I got a DUI in 1999. I was a .27. My life was falling apart. And, so again, Iraq, I just realized I was like, holy shit, there's a better way to live. I'd forgotten what it was like to be sober. So in Iraq is where I learned like, and I'll say this, you're out on those convoys and you're worried about that you're not going to make it. Am I going to be one of the ones whose vehicle blows up today, or we're going to get shot? And I was like, you know what? If I go home, if I die, I'm never gonna become anything that I thought I was gonna become. And that was scary. I was like, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna fucking die an alcoholic. I'm never gonna be a teacher or do anything great like I thought I was gonna do. So that was the moment. What has been the most rewarding part of your sobriety journey? How has it changed the way you approach life? Well, I mean, my son is 18. He and I have a relationship, and if I was drinking, there's no way I would. Now my daughter, who is 28, we don't have a relationship, and I think I burned too many bridges in my drinking years. And so that fucked up a lot of my life. Uh, but I'd never be running a YouTube channel. I never would have become an army officer. I never would have, gotten a master's degree. All the shit that I did. If I was alive now, which I don't think I would be, I'd probably weigh 400 pounds. And so nothing happens if I don't get sober. What advice would you give to fans who might be struggling with addiction based on your own experiences? Ask for help. Don't be afraid to open up, even to your family. They probably know anyway. And if you're like, you want to get, but you have to want to get sober. I mean, if you're like, you know, so if you want to get sober, tell people. And you would be shocked at how much people will be willing to help. Okay. Email me, anthony.a.bryant@hotmail.com. Not that I know, what to do, but talk to somebody. And yes, people will help you. People want to help. And your family wants to see you live your life the right way. They really do. Mine really did. And my mom was never so happy in her entire life as when I got sober and just seeing the way our relationship has blossomed because I used to hide everything from her. I used to lie to her all the time. I lied to everybody all the time, including myself. So, uh, talk to people and just be honest. Tell them this is how bad it is. If you're like fucking, like I always said, like I wasn't suicidal, but I was like, if there's a step below suicidal, that's where I was, you know? And so, all right. Questions about my passion for hair metal. What is about hair metal that captured your heart, and why do you think the genre resonates with so many fans even today? Hair metal people were like superheroes. I said this before. Like the grunge bands dressed like the fucking gas station attendant. Like we didn't want Superman to save us in fucking jeans and a t-shirt. We wanted Superman to look like fuck. We can never look like Superman. And those hair metal people, like we can never dress like that. But that just made them almost mythical figures. And besides that, the music was so positive and fun and uplifting. But it could also be fucking sad and depressing. Faster Pussycats, House of Pain, Warrant's I Saw Red. So to me, it was more real life than the other music. I mean, life is full of ups and downs, and you got that with hair metal. So I that's I still relate to it because of that. If you had to pick one hair metal album to listen to for the rest of your life, what would it be and why? Well, I've said before that I thought AC/DC's Back in Black might be the greatest album of all time. But if I had to pick one hair metal album, that's hard. Warrant's Dog Eat Dog, probably. Wild Side's Under the Influence, Electric Angels. Shit, there's so many. Okay. What's your favorite hair metal memory? Maybe a concert you attended or a moment when a song just hit you at the right time. My first concert ever was REO Speedwagon, Richard Marx, and Henry Lee Summer. It was amazing, but the second concert was Kiss with Slaughter and Faster Pussycat. That was damn near a religious experience. Seeing Kiss, it was the Hot in the Shade tour when, if you know, the Sphinx opened up. If you saw this tour and there was all these green lasers and there's the band standing, like I have goosebumps right now talking about it. And then getting pulled up on stage with Warrant in the mid 90s. That happened a couple times. It's actually on YouTube. Maybe I'll put the clip here. Fucking amazing. Um, if you could go back to the 80s and join any hair battle band on tour, which one would it be? And what role would you play? I mean, I would love to go out with Warrant on the Cherry Pie tour, and be able to hang out with Janie Lane and those guys that looked like they were having so much fun. And just knowing what happened to Janie Lane, I'd like to see, like the progression, because I think it was on the Dog Eat Dog tour where things started to get dark, but man, the Cherry Pie tour looked like they were still having a blast. I would have loved to have been there. Okay, questions about my YouTube channel. How did the idea for the Hair Metal Guru YouTube channel come about? What inspired you to start sharing your love for hair metal with the world? I just always wanted to be involved in music, and I couldn't be in a band because I didn't have any talent and I couldn't sing. And I used to, well, I have an English degree, so I used to think I'll write about it, but I'll just be honest, I didn't have the patience to sit and write big long articles and then submit them and wait for them and hope. I had an article published in Sleaze Rocks when Janie Lane died. That was pretty cool, but it took for fucking ever to write it. It was a huge article, and I loved it. But YouTube, I was like, you know what? You can just come up with a topic and sometimes you don't write any notes, but you can just talk about it from your experiences. And then you can put it up online and you get the feedback right away. Hey, this was good, this wasn't. And so that was my desire to be involved in music is what led to it. I just always wanted to be a part of it. And this is as close as I can get. Okay, what's been the most surprising part of growing your channel to where it is today? Did you ever expect it to become this successful? Uh, in getting to interview like fucking Ricky Rocket, are you shitting me? Uh, Getting to interview Drew from Wildside, all the interviews, people from Warrant. The Ricky Rocket interview is over 40,000 views. Are you fucking kidding me? And I've said this before. It's like I think I just went over 5,600 subscribers today. I never saw that happening ever, you know? So I just that's it's just been amazing, and thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who has been part of it getting, and to all the people that come on the channel. And now I'm probably gonna miss somebody, but Brian from the Hairband Basement, Ryan, Metal Mike, Jay, Patrick, Jeremy, Chad and Bergie, shit, Jones and Randy from way back. And who am I missing? Jason, Mariah. So all those people just make the channel what it is. So yeah, I'm just shocked that it's gotten to where it is. And fucking Charlie, we just knocked out my fucking my power cord. Yeah, because you got big boobies. And Charlie's one of the most famous parts of the channel. Yeah, and you got an OnlyFans. So we love Charlie, don't we? Yeah, you're so pretty. So, um, can you share a behind the scenes moment from creating one of your videos? Maybe a funny mishap or a challenge you had to overcome? One of the funniest times ever was when I said to Brian from the Hairband Basement, when I was adjusting the size of my screen, and I go, oop, gonna make that smaller like your penis. And then, oh, gonna make that bigger like your anus. And I fucking died laughing. Like I was laughing for like 10 minutes. I don't know if that's all on the video because I think it might have been before I actually hit record. But they like the other guys on the channel, Brian, they just started talking because I couldn't fucking talk. I was laughing so hard. It was, oh man. If you have moments like that in your life, you're doing okay. And the most challenging was when Jeremy and I were recording a video. We get done with the whole fucking video. I forgot to hit record. Like, are you shitting me? So I'm like, Jeremy, we're gonna have to do that again. I'm like, if you will. And he was like, he's awesome. So he's like, yeah, of course. So we re-recorded it. Oh, that was crazy. Okay. Most meaningful piece of feedback you've ever received from a fan of the channel. Well, the best piece of feedback has, and multiple people have said this. They said you and your buddies on the roundtables, it reminds me of me and my buddies back in the day, shooting the shit and talking about hair metal. That was the best. I was like, fuck, thank you. That is what I'm going for. So that was the entire goal. And so hopefully that is what we are doing. Um, so that is the best piece of feedback. How do you decide which topics or bands to cover on your channel? And do you have a dream video you'd love to make one day? Um, I have a Word document that's like hair metal guru ideas, and if something randomly pops into my head, I'll be on like I'm doing this is kind of an offshoot of Brendan Snyder's video. Sometimes I'll see what other people are doing. I'm like, oh fuck, I could do something similar. And like yes, we obviously I mean, I don't steal people what people do in the video, but you might steal the topic. Like what channel hasn't done our 10 favorite, albums. So, it's not like you can say, "Oh, I can't do that topic because somebody else." So yes, you steal the topics. You don't steal what people say. Um, so yes, I have a huge list and some of them suck. Sometimes I'm like, "Fuck, I need an idea for video." And you're like, "Ah, shit, I'm never going to do that. That's stupid." And then sometimes you're like, "Ooh, shit." Like today, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people were announced, so maybe I'll do something on that, so that's, random shit happens and you come up with an idea. Dream video that I would love to make one day. Uh, I mean, I want to do every video eventually, but it's all about interviews. Like I really want to tell the stories of the people that had a role in hair metal, even if they weren't in bands, So I want to interview somebody from every band and tell their and have them tell their stories. I just want to facilitate it and get the word out and get people thinking about these bands and maybe and especially the undiscovered bands. I want to tell the stories of Sleaze Bees and Electric Angels and Wildside, which I've already gotten to do. Um, so people know, that hey, they had these dreams, and some of them the dreams came true, and some of them didn't, and some of them got really fucking close. And I want to know what happened, and I want the fans to know. So that's where I want the channel to go. Is I want this to be the place or a place where people go, you know what? If you want to tell the story of your life in music, you can go to the hair metal guru and tell it, and he'll let you tell it. Okay. Uh, looking back, how do you think your military background, your sobriety journey, and your love of hair metal have all come together to shape the hair metal guru and that's the fucking last question. Amazing. Um, I don't, I mean, I've done a video on my sobriety. I've talked and in that and I've mentioned my military stuff, but just everything, everything that you live through makes you the person that you are. And so when I interview people, like I can appreciate people who, didn't who went through a period of failure because I went through a massive period of failure. I went through, having all your dreams fucking dashed because I was an addict. And so when people talk about that, like I can relate, man. Like, Drew from Wildside talking about how Wildside didn't pan out and he ended up fucking a meth addict. Like my dreams didn't, I ended up an alcoholic. So I can nod my head and be like, man, I don't know exactly what you went through, but I can relate to that. And so and the military back, I don't, shit. I don't know how that I just every part of what I've done impacts what I do today. When I don't do the channel, I do the channel. I coach little kids basketball, or little kids up to young adults. I train kids. I sell shit online. You know, like you know, like I sell shit like this is a real ad. I've used to show these all the time. I've kind of stopped doing it because I feel like it takes a long time in the videos. I have a little side business doing that. Um, I do Hair Metal Mansion on Rock 101 KLOL every Saturday. And so that's another thing. Like this channel has led to those kinds of things happening. And so I'm just appreciative for it. So that's the last question. Uh and so this is the 200th episode and hopefully this wasn't a shitty idea. Hopefully it didn't fucking backfire, like I said in the beginning. So if you have any questions, or please put in your comments. if you have a question that you is really bugging you, and fuck, who cares about my shit, but feel free to ask in the comments. I'll try to. It's not as easy to respond all the time. I used to try to respond to every comment, but I put out so many videos. I try to put out three, four a week. And so to do all that and do all the editing and do the coaching and everything, and then try to spend, so I apologize if I don't get to your comments. I do always try to get to the members' comments because they contribute to the channel. And I am trying to turn this into something that I can like live on because, um, I don't make a ton of money coaching a little bit and selling my shit. So yes, I'm trying to turn this into something that I can do to make money. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this. Hopefully, you found some of it interesting. Maybe some of it wasn't. Uh, Go in the comments, like, subscribe. What the hell? Ring the bell. In the description, you'll find Hair Metal Guru merch. You'll find the link to Hair Metal Mansion on Rock 101 KLOL. You'll find my X account at Hair Metal Guru. And hey, whatever you can do to support the channel, I truly appreciate you being here. 200 episodes, unbelievable. Thank you. Until the next video comes out, my name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care of yourselves.